नाइस टू बी, कैसे लोग जाएंगे, क्या करेंगे. सो द थीम इज़ व्हाट सर सेज इन द एंड ऑफ द फिल्म इज़ दैट सब लोग तो हिमालय के दर्शन नहीं कर सकते, बट हम ये ना भूलें कि हम सब के अंदर हमारा वो एवरेस्ट, वो हिमालय, वो शक्ति है जिससे हम दुनिया की हर ऊंचाई को पार कर सकते हैं. सो एक्चुअली इन दिस फिल्म आई हैव एक्चुअली क्लाइम्ड और आई हैव डन एवरीथिंग व्हिच इज नॉट मी.
जो आपका कन्विक्शन था,
यस
वो आपको लगता है पूरा हुआ इसमें?
यस सर, एब्सोल्यूट.
That's all that matters.
That's the best question.
सर हम लोग सब बेसिकली क्या है देवियों सर, जो हम लोग सब इकट्ठा हुए हैं यहाँ पर हमारी फिल्म ऊंचाई के बारे में थोड़ी सी बातचीत करने के लिए. राजश्री प्रोडक्शंस का नाम लेते ही सब लोग उत्तेजित हो जाते हैं और ऐसी ऐसी भावनाएं जागृत होती हैं वहाँ की कि उनको लगता है कि अगर राजश्री है तो सब कुछ ठीक है, सर्वश्री है अगर राजश्री. लेकिन सही में सर हम सब ऐसा मानते हैं कि ये एक ऐसा प्रोडक्शन हाउस है जहाँ पर काम करना हम सब के लिए एक बहुत बड़ा सौभाग्य होता है. और अगर साथ में हमारे साथ सूरज जी हैं और इनका एक जो मैजिकल वॉन्ड है इनके हाथ में, वो इस फिल्म पे भी लगे. और बस थोड़ी देर में हम लोग अंदर जा रहे हैं तो आपकी कृपा बनी रहे और क्या. थैंक यू सो मच.
Thank you जी. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
यमराज वैसे ही मंडरा रहा है कंधे पर. चलो बुला लो तुरंत गला पकड़ने के लिए. सीढ़ी चढ़ नहीं सकते चारों, ऊपर से बोले पहाड़ चढ़ जाओ.
बर्फ बदन है, केटिको सुर्ख अगन है. प्यार से मिलो.
आप इनके परिवार को इत्तला कर दीजिए.
बस हम इतने जो थे.
Greetings, this is Viewpoint. I'm Zaka Jacob. The latest political controversy between the Congress and the BJP happens to be around the logo for the G20 summit. Remember, India will be hosting the G20 summit in 2023. In fact, India will be holding the rotating presidency starting next month. Next week, the Prime Minister is going to be Bali, where ceremonially the handover function will happen from the current host country, Indonesia, to the next host country, which happens to be India. Now, the Congress party, the principal opposition party, has raised a huge hue and cry around the fact that the G20 logo has a lotus in it. Now, the lotus, of course, being the BJP's election symbol. But the BJP has fact-checked the Congress by saying that the lotus was declared as the national flower of India way back in the 1950s when Jawaharlal Nehru was Prime Minister of this country. Is this silly season electoral politics that's going on, or is there merit in the Congress's argument that a overt political symbol should not be the logo of an event, a summit, which India is hosting?
मैं माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी से विनती करूंगा कि वो बटन दबाकर भारत के G20 logo.
Prime Minister Modi unveiling the logo of India's G20 presidency.
India, home to 1.3 billion people, is a confluence of religions, traditions, and customs.
The logo includes a lotus, which Prime Minister Modi says is a symbol of hope in trying times.
And seeing the world as one family.
The world is going through the after effects of disruptive, once-in-a-century pandemic, conflicts, and lot of economic uncertainty. The symbol of the lotus in the G20 logo is a representation of hope in these times. No matter how adverse the circumstances, the lotus still blooms.
But for the opposition, the lotus symbol has a political link.
एक्चुअली भाजपा वाले हमेशा इलेक्शन मोड पे रहते हैं और हमेशा उनको लगता है कि हमें वोट का लाभ मिल जाए.
G20 symbol contains lotus, which is sought to be capitalized by BJP. Well, I think this is certainly objectionable.
Why the lotus was not used earlier by BJP, the ruling party, as a national flower? But no, for G20 they are going to use it now. That shows every issue they politicize.
BJP countered these allegations and said the lotus symbolizes India's ancient heritage.
कमल आज से हजारों वर्षों से भारत और भारतीय संस्कृति में सबसे महत्वपूर्ण है। राष्ट्र और राष्ट्रवाद के किसी भी तत्व के प्रति आपके मन में कितनी अवमानना है और उसको लेट डाउन करने के लिए आप किसी भी सीमा तक जाने को तैयार हैं।
India takes over the presidency of the G20 from the 1st of December and will have an opportunity to consolidate its growing foreign policy footprint. So at such a crucial moment, why politicize India's global show of strength?
One Earth, one family, one future.
All right, is the opposition and the Congress in particular making an unnecessary sort of mountain out of a molehill, if you will? The lotus happens to be the national flower of the country. It's not just the BJP's election symbol. And after all, the G20 is something that India as a country will be hosting. So why bring in petty politics? Let me bring across our guests who are joining us on Viewpoint. Guru Prakash Paswan is spokesperson of the BJP, Kailash Adhikari, Director of Governance Now. Meeta Chakrabarti will be joining us. She's the spokesperson of the Congress Party. And Sanjeev Srivastav, senior journalist. Guru Prakash Paswan, the Congress is saying that the lotus is avowedly the election symbol of the BJP. Why have an electoral symbol in the logo of an event that the country is going to be hosting?
No, Zaka, I think this is just a preposterous proposition. This shows the poverty of imagination and lack of ideas of the opposition party. This is nothing but opposition for the sake of opposition. You yourself mentioned in your initial set of observation that lotus is the national flower of our country. Who decided it to be a national flower of our country? Did BJP decide it to be the national flower of the country? And the Prime Minister himself, while unfurling the logo, explained the significance of lotus. Lotus is a flower, is a national flower that represents hope, that represents the idea of Vasudev Kutumbakam, one world, one family. Prime Minister was very categorical about it, that the Western notion of the world, that there is a third world, there is a second world, there is a first world. Prime Minister Modi and India today is having a say, is setting the global world order, is setting the global standards for conversation. So this is clearly beyond my comprehension. This is opposition for the sake of opposition. We have seen the last couple of years during COVID, Zaka, how India took a leadership position when it came for vaccination, when it came to masks, when it came for any other thing. India helped not only Brazil, America, but so many countries. So what is the problem with it? G20
okay, Sanjeev Srivastav, the BJP spokesperson there, saying
India
this
its leadership
is a poverty of ideas. The opposition is simply creating this issue, which is a non-issue according to them. And after all, the lotus is the national flower, and it was declared so in the 1950s when Pandit Nehru was Prime Minister. It's not like the BJP even existed back then. So why are you making an issue of the lotus being part of the G20 logo?
Well, Zaka, good evening. And there are two aspects to this entire controversy. One, of course, and I won't give BJP the benefit of doubt, that they are past masters at capitalizing or exploiting any situation to their party's benefit also. So I won't say that it is just an act of innocence or a national flower being used as the symbol. Somebody may have thought about it. Now, I don't know for fact, but somebody may have thought about it. But what I found absolutely astounding is that, you know, I wouldn't have looked twice at this symbol and thought, oh, lotus is there and it's a BJP symbol and ye kamal ka phool khila diya inhone yahan bhi, and they are trying to exploit it politically. The Congress is being so churlish in its approach because people who might not even think that it's lotus and the BJP's election symbol, now they are giving BJP that much extra mileage by saying that why are you using your election, why are you using your party symbol as a component of the G20 symbol. It would have been just passed through, or it would have been, people wouldn't have noticed it or given so much thought to this whole thing.
Correct.
But now with Jairam Ramesh tweeting about it and talking about it, they are again playing into the hands of BJP, number one, by saying that, reminding everybody that it's BJP's symbol. And number two, how does it really help the Congress party? Who does it aim to convince? What extra mileage does it get by putting BJP in such a box? You don't create a good international vibe or image through this controversy. And B, willy-nilly, whether you agree with it or not, you're again playing into the hands of the BJP by trying to oppose something which is so intrinsic to Indian.
Let me ask Meeta
say the
Chakrabarti,
Hindu psyche or Hindu mindset.
not just the fact that the lotus is the national flower of India, and it was declared so back in the 50s when the BJP was not even in existence. The Congress and the Congress's first Prime Minister was the one who declared so. But more importantly, if you look at Hindu mythology, if you look at part of our culture, gods and goddesses sit on the lotus. So the lotus has always been integral to Indian culture and Indian religion and Indian mythology. So why are you opposed to the lotus? I mean, the fact that you are seeing it purely from the prism of the BJP's electoral symbol, it's probably the BJP's electoral symbol for the last 30 years. But the lotus is intrinsic to India and Indian culture and religion for thousands of years.
Okay, good evening to all your viewers. Politics at its best should be an attempt to take everyone along. It should be an inclusive thing. And people who are in positions of power also have this additional responsibility that they do their communication right. So here, yes, we do acknowledge that lotus is a national flower and it has played a role, and obviously it has been a national flower from the 1950s. But when we look back at the history, we see that Pandit Nehru was given the proposal of making the Indian National Congress's flag as the national flag of India. And he rejected that proposal. And one of the reasons why he rejected the proposal was purely because of his attempt of making India a truly democratic country, where India and Congress and Indian National Congress Party are not synonymous. And Indian National Congress continue to function as a political organization.
But ma'am, with due respect, may I ask, who is it who came with the coinage of Indira is India, India is Indira? Surely that was not a BJP person.
Yes, it was reflection of an emotion, but I'm talking about the legacy of Pandit Nehru. I'm talking about the legacy of India as a whole. Now, coming back to this particular issue of using Lotus as part of the G20 presidency logo. Now, we have to bear in mind, can anyone deny that Lotus is the election symbol of BJP? No. We are going into elections in the state of Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh. There are many more state elections to be fought in 23, leading up to 2024. Can anyone deny that? No. So as a responsible political organization that is representing the government of India, it is very important to make this distinction. People, I again go back to my very basic submission here, that people who are in positions of power have the additional responsibility to
Kailash
ensure
Adhikari,
that
I mean, the point about elections coming up in Gujarat and Himachal, surely there are far more important issues that matter to the voters of those two states. I'm not getting into that. But please respond to what Meeta Chakrabarti's point is, that Nehru, when he was presented with the opportunity, Kailash Adhikari, of choosing the Congress party's flag as the flag of India, he said, no, one political party cannot be equated to the nation. Therefore, there has to be a different flag. Does that argument hold water?
Not at all. Zaka, firstly, of late, the principal opposition party of this country has been is into the habit of doing a self-goal, whether calling Hindu a dirty word or now, giving this, making a mountain of a molehill of this, the Lotus issue. It has been the habit of doing a self-goal, and it is not realizing that it is doing a self-goal. That is a sad part of it. Now, coming to the fact that we as a nation, must be proud of the fact that the presidency of the G20 summit lies with India this year, and by unveiling of the logo, we have used the tricolor, all the four colors of our national flag, into the G20 logo with the lotus. Now, lotus as a flower is a symbol of hope. And as Honorable Prime Minister, reiterated that the world has seen the worst of the pandemic, which comes once in 100 years. There's a war going on, secondly. Thirdly, there's an economic recession also, which currently India is not, much exposed to because of our strong fundamentals. But yes, at this time, if we emote some kind of hope and give out the message of one earth, one family, then I believe that's the best message that India is giving. We are into the belief of Vasudev Kutagam, and by writing Bharat in the Devanagari script, it is a very strong and bold message. And by making, such that this is a political, first of all, G20 is not political. Why are you bringing politics into it?
Okay.
There is no need to bring into
messaging.
it.
No, the messaging, ma'am, there is something called silly season in politics. I guess this seems like a silly season controversy, especially more so because there are two big elections that are happening. They are right around the corner, Himachal and Gujarat. Both of those elections, it's the BJP versus Congress straight fights. The Congress could have made a contest out of it. if they focused on the substantive issues, the issues that matter to the
Can I
people
come
of
in,
these
please?
two states. Unfortunately, I don't think the Lotus matters to the people of these two states. I mean, the Lotus, this is a symbolism fight, if at all it is a fight. But let me bring in Guru Prakash Paswan. You know, the need to rise above partisan politics, the need to rise above symbolisms of political parties. Sandeep Srivastava says surely it can't be a coincidence, or surely it can't be a slip that the Lotus came there as part of the logo. Someone would have alerted to the fact that this is the symbol of the ruling party, or was that discarded?
No, Zaka, I don't think. I think it's extremely important to have a very important perspective here that our national emblem, it stands upon Lotus. You mentioned about our culture and civilization. Obviously, we are aware of the distaste of the Congress party when it comes to Hindu ideas, Hindu culture and Hindu civilization. But Lakshmi ji and Saraswati ji, their Vahaks is a lotus. They are standing upon lotus. They are sitting upon lotus. So this is clearly the standpoint of the Congress party. I mean, you have to understand that the Congress party is setting new standards of disappointment for the Indian voter every passing day. G20 is a multilateral group. It's a multilateral institution. So I'm sure the decision would have taken in consultation with the entire leadership, the entire bureaucracy of G20. But like you pointed out, this is going to be the biggest self-goal of the Congress party in the months to
Not
come.
at all.
I mean, this is clearly the lack of ideas, the lack of vision and lack of imagination of the Congress party. They're attacking the national emblem. They're attacking the Hindu culture and civilization values. They're attacking Goddess Lakshmi. They're attacking Goddess Saraswati and everything. This is the approach of the Congress
Meeta
party.
Chakrabarti,
And like
I mean,
you said,
like I said,
it is very
Lotus has
difficult
been
for him
culturally
just 10 seconds.
associated with our religions, with our culture for thousands of years. Hear me out. Give me 10 seconds. You know, whether it is Goddess Lakshmi sitting on a lotus, Vishnu's feet being referred to as lotus feet, it has been an integral part of India's culture and heritage for thousands of years. Why are you linking it to the symbol of a political party which has been in existence only for 30 years? I mean, you are giving them more importance than this logo deserves.
Okay. Now, I think it is absolutely, it has become a norm these days to drag religion into every discussion, into every debate, into every discourse by the BJP people.
Lotus is a matter of faith, ma'am.
I am not
Lotus is a
surprised
matter
that
of
they are
faith.
repeating the same
Lotus
thing.
is a matter
We
of faith.
are-
Please have your
So
facts right.
please,
Lotus is
can
a matter
I
of
did
faith,
not
ma'am.
interrupt you, sir.
Please
I
don't.
did not interrupt you, sir.
No, you
are
did
very
interrupt. You
different.
did interrupt, ma'am. Lotus
one
is a matter
one
of
at a
faith
time,
for
one at a
us.
time.
You
Let
cannot do
Meeta make
this.
a point. Yes, thank you. Yeah, one at a time, please.
I
Yeah,
did not
Meeta, make your
interrupt
point.
you, so show some grace, please.
Yeah, Meeta, make your point though.
So it has become a norm to
did
drag
interrupt, ma'am.
religion into every discourse, into every debate. Now, symbolism does play a very important part in political communication. As I said, what Pandit Nehru did several decades back, and kept India as a separate entity and Indian National Congress as a political organization, a separate entity, we expect better from the government
No,
of
that
India.
point is taken.
And also
How
as
will
a
you respond,
political
ma'am?
opposition
How will
party,
you
I
respond to the
understand.
BJP's
I fully
charge, ma'am? Give me
understand.
10
Can I
seconds.
just-
How
30
will you
seconds
respond to the
30
BJP's
seconds
charge
more, please.
that since
I
Lotus
fully
is integral to
understand.
the Hindu faith, Lakshmi is on the lotus, Vishnu's feet are referred to as Kamal Charan. How will you respond to the charge by the BJP that this puts paid to this whole thing that the BJP has been saying for the last many years, that the Congress is an anti-Hindu party?
Please.
I want your response. I'm waiting for it. Meeta Chakrabarti.
Okay, all right. So as I said, obviously it kind of suits their political narrative and their political messaging, and I'm absolutely not going to fall in the trap. As a political opposition party, it will suit them if we would have kept quiet and we would have we know that BJP and Modi, Prime Minister Modi, they like to promote themselves, they like to promote their party, and all they think is election and election management 24/7. While it's their right as a principal opposition political party going into state elections and then into 2024 elections as the principal opposition to the BJP, we are well within our rights to point this out, to make the people of the nation aware as how symbols are being used, and to say that symbolism
Sandeep
is not an
Srivastava,
important part of
there are
political
certain
messaging,
things
it's
in
entirely
politics
wrong.
which are supposed to be beyond the beltway, to take an American phraseology. And foreign policy happens to be one of them. The fact is, today, India is the 5th biggest economy in the world. We've all been through this terrible 2 years of the COVID pandemic, and India is one of the few countries that's come out stronger after the pandemic. Even you take this Russia-Ukraine war, there was a time when the West was not very particularly chuffed about India's position, not condemning Russia, not voting against Russia, continuing to buy oil from Russia. Today, people are talking about whether India can become an interlocutor between Russia and Ukraine. So, India's position in the Committee of Nations at a time when it's going to be the host for G20 is very, very strong indeed. Doesn't this controversy take away from that position of strength or that projection of strength that we're trying to do?
Is that for me?
Sanjeev Srivastava.
Zaka, I don't exactly subscribe to that view. According to the real believers in the BJP and Prime Minister's abilities, he actually managed to convince both sides, and the war in between Ukraine and Russia ended many months ago. That's a separate issue. The issue is, I won't even bring foreign policy here. What I really feel sad about the Congress spokespersons is that sometimes they are just left to reducing defending the indefensible, because their initial response has not been thought through, or their reaction has not been thought through. This is one of those instances. I am sure whoever thought about this reaction, that let us oppose this Lotus symbol and let us try and put the BJP in a box, they have really created more trouble for themselves, because in the end, what is the BJP's biggest campaign point or biggest rallying point against the Congress party? That it is a party whose leadership does not fully appreciate, understand, comprehend, respect Indian culture, i.e. Hindu values. Now you are again played into that trap. Now you keep on endlessly. We all know Prime Minister Modi is no Prime Minister Nehru of the past. They are completely different personas. So what's the point of giving that example today? So the thing is that this is pure politics, and a party which is the principal opposition party should think through first that what they are opposing, what will be the natural fallout of that. Now this is one of those classic cases that instead of putting the BJP into a corner, the Congress has put itself in a corner. Now it has to say it is not against Indian culture, Indian values, Indian civilization.
That this whole,
so what's the big deal?
Once again, let me ask Kailash this. The issue is also that the Congress party is not doing itself any favors by, for example, not acting against Satish Jarkiholi. It's been what, 3 days since he said what he said. You can agree with it, you can disagree with it, but as a mainstream opposition party, the fact that you have not taken any action against him for the last 3 days, that is inexplicable. And this is what Sanjeev Srivastava is also saying. I mean, the BJP's job is to lay traps for you. Your job as the main opposition party is not to fall into those traps. Kailash Adhikari.
Absolutely, Zaka. The problem with Congress, currently is that it is helping the BJP by whatever it is doing. As the principal opposition party, as you rightly mentioned, that it was a job of the party. If someone is going outside the line and saying something which can turn controversial and is not in good spirit and in good taste also, it is not taking any action, and thus it is giving a picture outside that it is acceptable to the Congress. Then naturally, the entire image that the Congress had created prior to 2014 as being the anti-majority party, it is now reaping the benefits. It is now reaping the ill benefits of whatever it has sown. As it is a very famous proverb, as so you sow, so shall you reap. That is what the
so Meeta Chakrabarti, what explains that? No action against Satish Jarkiholi. We had a phase where Rahul Gandhi was the Shiv Bhakt, going from temple to temple. He seems to have given up on that idea. The relationship, political relationship between the Congress party and the principal religion in this country seems to be rather fleeting.
Okay, some uninterrupted time, please. First of all, when we oppose to the use of Lotus as an overriding theme in G20 logo, we made it very clear that the opposition is not because of any religious reason. The opposition is because Lotus is a political symbol, is an election symbol of BJP party. So that was very clear in our communication. Now, I know it suits a part of the political narrative and maybe a section of the media also to make it about anti-Hindu, but it was not about a religion. It is also possible that BJP, for every discussion, for every discourse, for every debate, they would love to drag religion into that discourse, but we are not going to fall in trap of that. If you say that as a principal political opposition party, going into 2 state elections where the contest is mainly bipolar between the Congress party and the BJP, we are not within our rights to point this out then what are we doing in our communication department?
All right, I'll give Guru Prakash the final word. I've got 30 seconds to wrap up. It's the BJP sort of forte to bring in religion into every controversy. Meeta Chakrabarti saying there was no religious angle to this controversy. They simply pointed to the fact that this is the political symbol of the ruling party. Why are you dragging religion into it?
And we are not going to be quiet and silent.
Yeah, Guru Prakash Paswan, final word. I got to wrap up.
I
got to wrap up after that. Thank you, Meeta Chakrabarti. Yield, please. Yeah, Guru.
Zaka, we have to understand a couple of things. I was patiently listening to the Congress spokesperson, and it's a matter of open secret. Only recently, the newly elected Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge ji made a statement. Sanatan Dharma ka sarkar aa jayega, creating threat, creating fear in the name of Sanatan Dharma. It was none other than Congress Prime Minister in 2007 saying that is desh ke sansadnon pe pehla hak Musalmanon ka hai. It was none other than the Congress party who coined the term Hindu terror. So their distaste for Hindu culture, their distaste for Hindu civilization is a matter of open secret. So their distaste of Lotus, which is our national emblem, a national flower, it is not surprising at all. Congress party hates everything which is Hindu in our culture and civilization.
I got to wrap up. Thank you very much to all our guests. We'll see how this story plays out in the run-up to the G20. Like I said, the Prime Minister is going to be at the G20 next week. And then on the 1st of December, India takes over the rotating presidency and will be playing host through next year. All right, the other big story, of course, which is even unfolding right now, is the results from the midterm elections in the United States. It's been a good result so far for the Republicans. They will take the House of Representatives, but it's not particularly a great one because they've lost one Senate seat, which a Republican held on to, but now in Pennsylvania, John Fetterman of the Democratic Party has flipped that seat, so which basically means the Republicans will need to flip at least 2 out of the 3 states that are still toss-up between Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. What's clear is that control of the Senate is still up for grabs, even though the House may have turned red.
The battle for control of Congress is coming down to just a handful of critical races. Democrats garnering enough victories across the country to stave off Republicans' pursuit of a red wave, but with several races still too close to call, both parties now clinging to hopes of winning narrow majorities in both chambers. A key win for Democrats.
I'll be the next U.S. Senator from Pennsylvania.
As Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman defeated Trump-endorsed Dr. Mehmet Oz to flip the formerly Republican-held Senate seat, giving Democrats a much-needed opportunity to maintain control of the upper chamber. The GOP also falling short on Senate races in New Hampshire and Colorado, but taking key victories in Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio, where Republican J.D. Vance defeated Democratic Senate candidate Tim Ryan.
I will never forget where I came from, and I will never forget the great people of Ohio. Thank you for this honor to serve you. I'll fight for you every day.
Control of the House, too, remains uncertain. Republicans, who expected to benefit from high inflation and historical trends, have not seen all of their anticipated victories materialize. However, GOP momentum in the closing stretch has prepared the White House for potentially governing in a divided Washington.
It is clear that we are going to take the House back.
But tight races in Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, and Georgia could take days, if not weeks, to be decided, leaving the balance of power in Washington up in the air.
All right, so where do things stand as of right now as far as the Senate is concerned? Because that's where the big drama seems to be unfolding. Right now, it's a dead heat between the Republicans and the Democrats, 48 each. But remember, the Democrats need just 50. 50 is the halfway mark, because they have the casting vote or the tiebreaker vote of Kamala Harris, the U.S. Vice President. The Republicans need 50 plus 1 to take control of the Senate. So where do things stand as far as the Senate is concerned? This is where it is. So if the Republicans need to win, they need to flip out of the remaining competitive races. They need to flip Georgia, that is Herschel Walker versus Raphael Warnock. Also in Nevada, which is turning out to be a very, very close contest there, the Republicans will need to flip that as well. And, of course, there is Wisconsin. Remember, Pennsylvania, which is a big fight. They had put up a huge amount of money and resources, and Trump went and campaigned there. John Fetterman, the lieutenant governor of the Democratic Party, he's beaten his Republican opponent, Dr. Oz. So because of that flip, it was a Republican-held Senate seat. Because of that flip, the Republicans will need to win all 3. Nevada, Wisconsin, Georgia, and, of course, Arizona. Don't forget. It's the Mark Kelly versus Blake Masters fight, so they'll need to win at least 3 out of these 4 to get to that magic figure of 51. The Democrats, on the other hand, remember they're leading in Nevada, they're leading in Arizona, they lost Wisconsin, Right now, Georgia looks like it'll go into a runoff election because neither of the two candidates, the Republican or the Democrat, has 50% plus one vote, which means that Georgia will go into the runoff in December. Let's look at the House, which is a straight-up result because the Republicans will take control of the House. And this is how it has been since every president from Bill Clinton downwards, every midterm, the opposing party, the party which is not in the White House, goes on to win the House of Representatives. Republicans 199, Democrats 178. Clearly, 218 is the halfway mark. At this rate, the House Republicans will go on to get not just 218. Remember, there are just 16 competitive races in which the Republicans are leading in all of them. They will go on to not just breach 218. Remember, in 2018, when the Democrats won the House, they ended up at 222. At this rate, the Republicans will end up far more than 222, possibly 225, or maybe even upwards to 230. But if you look at the map of the United States as it stands, a sea of red in the entire what's called the Bible Belt. Texas, Arizona, here in the south, Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, Georgia, entire sea of red. The only bright spots for the Democrats in the up in the East Coast, from New York, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Maine, and here in the West Coast, California, Oregon, and Washington State. But otherwise, it's a sea of red across the heartland of the United States. And finally, governors' races. There were 36 governorships that were up for grabs as well. Some interesting races there. Ron DeSantis holding on to Florida, so that's a big one for the Republicans. Florida has turned deep red country now, from Trump to Marco Rubio to now Ron DeSantis. Florida, which used to be a toss-up state up until a few election cycles ago, that is now firmly in red territory. The Republicans have a new governor in Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the daughter of Mike Huckabee, the first woman governor of Arkansas, also used to be press secretary in the Trump White House, in the Trump administration. But we're closely looking at the governor's races in both Nevada and in Arizona. If the Democrats flip the governor's races both in Nevada and Arizona, then that means that gives a huge fillip to the Senate races there as well. If the Democrats get both Nevada, Arizona, then they are home and dry. They would get 50 in the Senate, which means they get to keep control of the Senate. So clearly, you wouldn't call this a red wave, because the Republicans were hoping to take control of both the House and the Senate, as well as majority governorships. Yes, governorships, they have made inroads into a lot of states, but the fact that they are not getting control of the Senate, at least not just yet, that is going to be a sore point for the Republicans. That's a wrap. Thanks very much for tuning in. Anusha will join you in a moment with the biggest exclusive.
28 weeks of credible, honest, and dynamic news coverage. India's indisputable #1, CNN News 18, on your side.
Our top focus this hour is the standoff between the elected governments and the governor's office. A very warm welcome. I'm Anusha Soni, and this entire conflict between these two constitutional positions or these constitutional functionaries is indeed not new. Well, the office of governor is held in much high regard, speaking from the point of view of how the constitution makers actually envisioned this position. However, many times in independent India's history, we have seen the office of the governor being used as a political tool. It's an open secret. The phenomena, I must add, is not a new one, but goes back to the Congress era. Today, in focus are the two opposition-ruled states, of course, the state of Telangana, and many other states have seen these kind of issues. The opposition-ruled states of Tamil Nadu and Kerala, where the governor's office is in a direct confrontation. calling Governor R.N. Ravi a threat to peace, quote unquote, Tamil Nadu's ruling party DMK has submitted a memorandum to President to seek his removal for obstructing a democratically elected government from serving the people. I'm quoting what the government is saying. Now, it's also being said that the governor is instigating communal hatred. DMK has further alleged that there are various statements that have been made by the governor which are not in good taste. Things are not great in the state of Kerala too, where the cabinet decided to bring in an ordinance to take away the role of the chancellor of the universities from the governor's office. As the tussle between Arif Muhammad Khan and the state government has escalated in the recent months over the administration of universities, the ruling CPIM last week decided to explore all possible legal options. Now, the politicization of the governor's office or the much-needed constitutional check and balance, our top focus this evening. First, let's take you through what are the key issues of problems, the tussle between the governor's office in the state of Kerala. As I earlier said, there's controversy over the vice-chancellor appointment in Kerala. This has been a very heated issue. It has seen round of litigation as well. The Supreme Court had ruled that KTU VC's appointment as void ab initio. The governor maintains that he's only going by the rule book, and recommendation panel suggested one name instead of 3 out of the 5. So there have been various changes that have been made. Kerala governor sends notices to 11 VCs to resign. Clearly, the confrontation has only escalated in the past few days, and the VCs had moved the Kerala High Court and asked till the final decision, till the final decision is taken. The governor has directly challenged the government to present its case for the vice-chancellors, and he says that I'm only going to act according to law. He also says that the chief minister is in some way not acting by the rule book. The chief minister has hit back and accused the governor of undue interference in the functioning of the government. And a similar allegation we have heard across different states. The governor is accused government of regionalism, insularity, and also that these appointments are not happening according to the rule book, how they should, in a proper manner. LDF, the ruling party, has launched, the opposition party has launched protests against the governor's action. The ruling party, LDF, has insisted on various occasions that Arif Muhammad Khan is acting as the political puppet. That's what they have said. Let's now tell you the story coming in from the state of Tamil Nadu, how exactly that is really playing out. Well, here there are about 20 bills on which the governor's office is sitting. Democratically elected government has been obstructed. That's the charge that the chief minister has made. He also goes on to say that there are undue delays in assent to the bills which have been passed by the assembly. As I said, roughly 20 bills are pending. The third one attempts to excite disaffection towards the government, and this is an extraordinary move when you actually write to the president and say, look, the governor needs to be removed. Governor is not performing his primary function. He's only instigating. That is what the charge is that has been put by the DMK. And the kind of words which have been used, he is a threat to the peace and stability of the state because he is trying to subvert the decisions which have been taken by a democratically elected government. The oath of office has been violated, and he is only instigating communal hatred. So look at the kind of statements which have been exchanged. The next charge, the governor is acting against the collective will of the people, and at the heart of this entire controversy is the argument that he is only a political puppet. Conduct proves that he is unfit to hold the office of the governor. That's the submission that has been made to the president as well. I want to cut across to my colleagues who are tracking this story from the ground. Neetu Regukumar is joining us live from Thiruvananthapuram. Purnima Murli is live with us from Chennai. And Swastika Das is joining us live from Hyderabad. Good evening to all of you. Purnima, coming to you, extraordinary circumstances. The government is saying the governor is sitting on the bills. These moves do not behove the office of the governor. And the fact that they have decided to make it public, the kind of statements that have been used, only points out to the SAR relations.
Absolutely, the Tamil Nadu government and the governor standoff for many months now. And the latest was, in fact, the Coimbatore incident where the governor said, questioned the state government's delay in fact, handing over the case to the NIA. And after that, the DMK decided to seek other parties' support to sign memorandums. So apart from the DMK, the Congress too is on board seeking the withdrawal of governor. And the senior leader of the Congress, P. Chidambaram, in fact, had tweeted about it, saying that he and his alliance partner, the DMK, have decided that it's time for in fact, the withdrawal of the governor, considering that there have been many bills that are still pending before the governor, including the one where the state government does not have the power to appoint vice chancellors. That is in fact the highlight of the memorandum, apart from other bills including NEET, etc. So the standoff has been there for a long time, but the latest statements that came in from the governor has not gone down well with the Tamil Nadu government. So apart from the DMK, its alliance partners are also on board, signing the memorandum and submitted it before the president today. Anusha.
Interesting developments there. And the story is not great in Kerala as well, Neetu. We have seen Arif Mohammed Khan versus Pinarayi Vijayan, one press conference after the other, rounds of litigation, the vice chancellor appointment, the manner in which the appointments are being made, the entire effort of the government to take away that power from the governor's office. Well, this is not new and likely to continue. Neetu.
That's correct. The allegations and the counter allegations are just going on every day, and it's likely to continue. Today it has reached another level with the Kerala cabinet deciding that they will bring in an ordinance to remove governor as the chancellor of the state universities and bring in an educational expert. So this is the latest of the controversies and the allegation and counter allegation that has been going on, with the governor saying that the government is interfering in the appointment of the universities, and the government alleging that it is a governor that is trying to act as a political tool of the Sangh Parivar and the RSS, and is trying to interfere in the higher education sector to sabotage the work that is being done in the higher education sector. But now, even with this ordinance, the one aspect is that this ordinance also has to be sent to the governor for his assent. So today, while the governor spoke, he said, let them send the ordinance. I'm not going to sign on anything without applying my mind, and if I have doubts, they will have to come and brief me. So this it doesn't look like this issue is going to settle down any moment now. This is escalating further. Now the VCs have also approached the Kerala High Court, and the Kerala High Court has now directed the governor should not take a final decision till these writ petitions are disposed of. But in all this, it's the universities that are also suffering, the university administration, because if all these university VCs have to resign, they are saying that the pro-vice chancellors also, according to the rule, has to resign. So what will happen to the administration of the universities, the lives of thousands of students that is dependent on these universities?
Absolutely, Neetu. Cutting across to Swastika as well, because she'll tell us the story from Telangana. Even in this state, an opposition rule state, there have been a slew of allegations and counter allegations, something very similar to what Neetu was talking about. Swastika, give us perspective. And once again, in this state as well, this is not likely to die down any time soon. A direct line of confrontation that we have seen between these two constitutional positions, the Chief Minister office and the Governor's office.
Well, Anusha, Telangana Governor Tamilisai Soundararajan has completed 3 years in office, and these 3 years have had turbulent relationship with Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao. But the whole narrative hit a new pitch earlier today, when the governor alleged that even her phones are being tapped. Now, this kind of allegation has never come before. The governor says that not just her phones, it's also the phones of the Raj Bhavan staff, which is also under the constant surveillance of what she directly hit out and implied is of the state government. Now, of course, we are waiting for the state government to respond on these scathing allegations leveled by the governor here. But to give you a quick background of what exactly led to this, the standoff has been there since the last 3 years of her being here as the Telangana governor. But the latest one is over the passing of bills, and this bill is the Telangana University's Common Recruitment Bill in question. Now, this particular bill was passed in the assembly session, in the 2-day assembly session that was held earlier. This bill promises to construct a new board in which the recruitment of all the colleges, the teaching and non-teaching staff would be done by this common board, unlike earlier method where it was individually done. The governor has refuted that and instead hit out. at the Chief Minister for levelling allegations that she's sitting on the bill. But the phone tapping charges are interestingly very big allegations that she is levelled now.
Yeah, phone tapping allegations, writing to the president, bringing in an audience to make sure that the governor does not have the power to, control the appointments of the vice chancellors at various universities. That's the kind of standoff that we are witnessing. Swastika, Neetu and Purnima getting us all the details on that very interesting story which is unfolding. The one common thread in all this story is the kind of conflict we are seeing between the elected government of the day versus the governor's office. And mind you, these are all opposition ruled states. The key question that emerges is that the governor's office is a constitutional check and balance. The other side of the argument is that the office has often been politicized in the Indian political and independent India's history. Joining us on the broadcast are our guests, Mr. Narayan Tirupati, who is the Vice President of Tamil Nadu BJP, Dr. Kalanidhi Veeraswamy, who is from the DMK, is also with us on the broadcast, Mr. Subhash Jha, who is a lawyer, and Professor Dinesh Varshney, who is a leader of the CPI, is also with us on the show. He's with us in the studio. Mr. Tirupati, I'm coming to you first. Is it fair for the governor to sit on 20 bills which have been passed by the elected government of the day? Is he trying to stop? Is it fair for the governor to stop the work of the government which has been elected by the people? That's what DMK is asking. Please respond, sir.
See, it is the duty of the governor to see whether these bills are according to the constitution, according to the law or not. And it is the right of the governor to see whether these bills will serve the purpose of the public. Is it for the good for the Tamil Nadu or not? And if it is not right, he has the right to send it back with amendments. And once again, if they send it back, he has the right to withhold, and he can send it to the president. So absolutely, he is not at fault. Absolutely, he has got the right. He is doing his duty as per constitution. So
sir, you're right. And I said in the beginning that the constitution provides the office of a governor as a much needed check and balance to uphold the constitutional propriety. But if the governor has a problem with the bill, he can, either reject it or accept it or suggest some changes. But if the government decides to send it back, he has to give his mandate. He has to give his assent. That's what the law of the land is.
No, you are wrong. You are wrong. There is no time limit for this.
I agree that there is no time limit, but the governor cannot sit indefinitely, sir. Can he?
No, but see, he would have written a lot of communications, which the government has not told. Maybe they would not have said.
Okay.
See, that's what, even during this 16 bills, what they were referring in between, the governor office has said that we have communicated to the state government, which they have not communication. They have not replied me. That is what the governor's office. So we don't know what's happening. Just because they don't like the governor, because he talks about Sanatana Dharma, he talks about good behavior, he talks about discipline, he talks about culture, he talks about religion. This government is headmongering, and they are trying to behave in a different manner.
All right, Dr. Veeraswamy, the entire things, everything that you're saying about the governor is just made up. And basically, you just don't like the tone and tenor in which the governor is talking because your government somewhere is anti-Sanatan Dharma, anti-Hindu. That's what BJP is saying. Respond to that allegation.
First and foremost, I would like to make a clarification that it is not, we are not against Hindus. We are only talking about the evils, practices which are there in Hindu. If you're going to tell me that Hinduism is about sati, which was abolished in a certain period of time. If Hinduism is going to be talking about casteism, where you call some people as Dalits and you say that you are not allowed to enter into our temples, you're not supposed to enter into our streets, you're not supposed to use the same water source which is being used by everybody. We oppose these kind of discriminations.
Sir, untouchability and sati, both have been outlawed in the independent India's history. I think they are done and dusted debates. I don't think anybody in today's day and age justifies these practices.
Madam, if you are going to say that just because you have passed a law saying untouchability is abolished over here, if you think that it is now totally abolished in India, I will say that you will live in a fool's paradise. Because
sir, murder is illegal in every country of the world, but still it doesn't stop. The point is that the law should call a spade, and that has happened in this country. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, the law, you can have the people who hold the law in their hands, who are in power, are people who are not truly following the law in letter and spirit. They ensure that those people who are abusing these untouchables, the so-called untouchables, are protected and they are taken care of. This practice has been seen in several states where the BJP
I
is
politely
ruling.
request
And
you,
today we
sir,
are
Dr.
talking about the
Veeraswamy, my
situation
humble
where we are
submission to
talking
you is we should also talk about the key issues that you have with the governor's office right now. Why have you written to the president?
No, we have written to the president because several instances where he has made inflicting or very, you would call it as dangerous statements. We have given clarifications for whatever he has said.
What are the
Specifically, if you
dangerous
talk,
statements
he's
we're talking about?
people calling them as Harijans. No, Harijans, and we have a law which says that you are not supposed to be using those kind of terminologies. There is a law which is being passed. When a governor holds this kind of a laws to impunity and he abuses it himself, this will give a lot of the other common people, who the so-called upper caste, a lot more of, they will be emboldened to speak as and how they please, and they probably are going to be abusing these Dalits and other people.
So can you quote one of the statements of the governor and put it into context? Mr. Tirupati, I'm coming back to you. Can you give me one example of a governor's statement?
No, he has made a speech where he has said Harijans. He has used this word Harijans. And it is against the law to use such kind of a word. You cannot use the word
Mr.
Harijans
Subhash
Jha
is a lawyer. He is with us on the panel. Mr. Jha, correct me if I'm wrong.
Let me also
Okay, finish your point, then I'll go to Mr. Subhash Jha. Finish your point. Yeah.
Yeah. So he also has made a point saying that every country in this world has some kind of a religious. They are all religiously attached, and failing to understand that there are more than 130 countries out of the UN Charter of 190 odd countries, where majority of them are secular, and so is India. And he goes out and makes a very contradictory statement stating that India is also one of the countries which has to have a kind of religious identity. Which it is totally against the country's constitution, where we talk about secularism. And
I want to bring in Mr. Subhash Jha into the discussion. Mr. Subhash Jha, I think what Mr. Veeraswamy is arguing are stark differences of opinion that exist between the governor's office and the elected government of the day's ideology. I don't think there is anything illegal per se in the statement of the governor. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Jha.
Well, you're absolutely right. Now, let me first of all deal with the issue of Harijan.
Yes, please do.
Now, the word Harijan was coined for the first time, if I mistake not, was by none other than
Mahatma Gandhi.
Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes.
Mahatma Gandhi.
The children, the people of God, that's what it means.
He would refer them to Harijan.
Yes.
He would refer them to Harijan. So there is nothing wrong in referring a person to Harijan. Hari is what? Hari is Bhagwan. Hari. And Jan means log. So बहुत लोगों को मिलकर वो हरिजन का शब्द कहा उन्होंने. So there is nothing wrong in using the expression Harijan. Now coming back to the controversy. Now I've been going through before coming to your channel, going through the media reports.
To use the word Harijan?
So it's not illegal to use the word Harijan.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is nothing wrong in
It's not, sir. It's not, sir.
Where do you get it?
I say it with full responsibility. It's not.
No. Absolutely, there is nothing wrong in using the word Harijan. It is certainly not a derogatory language. We have in our country,
only the Dalits are Harijans, and all other caste people are not Harijans. They are not children of God.
Please try to
Okay, Dr. Veeraswamy, I respect the fact that you have a position on this. I respect the fact that you have a position. I'll come back to you. Mr. Jha, make your argument, and then I want to bring in Professor Varshney also into the discussion.
See, I would like to, at the very outset, I would like to make a few submissions. Look at the language and the tenor in which these expressions have been used against the Congress, none other than the constitutional functionary, who is head of the constitutional functionary, so far as the state is concerned. He is appointed by the President of India. He has certain powers, he has certain duties as well. He is supposed to be guided by the Council of Ministers on their advice. But then Article 163, subclause 1 gives him discretion. And that discretion, the use of expression discretion in Article subclause 1 and subclause 2 makes it very clear that he is not supposed to be the post office. He is not supposed to be a postman.
But can he sit indefinitely? Is my question.
No, no, certainly not. See, it appears, I've been going through the media reports, it appears that he's saying that if he's withholding certain bills, that means this is a decent way of saying no, that he doesn't agree with those bills.
I want to bring in Professor Varshney also into the discussion. Professor Varshney, touching upon what is happening in the state of Kerala and the sort of confrontation that we have seen between Arif Muhammad Khan and the Chief Minister's office, the appointment of chancellors at the various universities has become the recent bone of contention. It's also a legal battle which is being fought, and the governor's office continues to insist that you're trying to make these appointments political. I'm just doing my job. I'm just ensuring that there is propriety in appointments. Professor Varshney.
First of all, let me, Anusha, tell you one thing.
Yes.
I would like to ask a question to Mr. Tirupati as well as Subhash Jha Sahab.
Ji.
Is the appointment of the governor is non-political? It is political. They have been appointed from the political ideology, particular political ideology. And I would like to know why only the governors of the opposition ruled states have problems with the government. Do you mean to say that everything is all right in Madhya Pradesh? That does not mean that I am supporting that there should be no wrong allowed in any Kerala or Tamil Nadu or Telangana or any other opposition ruled state. But I would like to know, obviously, is the governor is the elected government if he is under the constitution oath, or the elected government is the larger democratic process? Are we a federal government, or are we have a federal character of the nation or not? We are a federal character of the nation. Hence, the elected government should always have an upper hand in every policy matters of the country. Every policy matter of the state, sorry. So, hence, if the state should have the powers, not the governor only. Governor is only an advisory role. It is, if governor has certain obligation under the constitution, similarly, elected government of state also have the obligation under the oath of the Constitution of India to run the state or
Professor Varshney, I'm not denying for a moment that, you know, the appointment of governors is political in nature in many ways. Nobody is denying that political reality in this country. But that being said, our own President, Draupadi Murmu, has a wonderful record that she as the governor stood for the rights of various underprivileged people in this country. She sent back certain bills which were not good for the Adivasis. The governor's office, all said and done, despite its politics, is also expected to play a role which is about constitutional checks and balances and the propriety of the elected government of the day to ensure that.
Look, the governor under the discretion rule which Mr. Subhash Jha says, the Supreme Court itself has said in its judgment on the same issue that the discretion cannot be used arbitrarily. It has been done away by many times, struck down by the governor orders by many times by the highest court of the land. Similarly, the elected government of the state, the respective state, has got a right to defend the feelings and aspirations of the people in the right direction. The governor cannot say that such and such should be the vice chancellor. I will not allow this person to be vice chancellor. Do you know who is the real scholar? Are you the subject expert? The people have been appointed as per the recommendation of the subject expert committee, the search committee. There is autonomous status of the university.
So you made a very interesting point. You said that, you know, we have to accept that the appointment of governors in this country is a political proposition. It happens. It's a political thought. The appointment in universities are also often politicized. We should accept that also openly.
No, it is not politicized. For example, look. I am a leader of the CPI since my student days. But when I was selected as a professor in the University of Delhi, I have faced the selection test. I have faced the selection committee. I have done my research. I have cleared all the tests. I became a topper. So these are the philosophies. That does not mean. So you cannot compel the government of Kerala or Tamil Nadu or anything. As far as Harijan word is concerned, you see in which century or which year Gandhiji used the term of Harijan and what now we do say.
Sure.
So there is a difference.
I appreciate the sensitivity of the matter. I'm only trying to make the point that it's not illegal or criminal in this country to use that word. Mr. Narayan Tirupati, I'm coming back to you. It's a fair point which is being raised by Mr. Varshney that the appointment of governors is done by the union government. It's a political appointment. Most of them are politicians which have held positions within the party sometimes. Most of the times, I would rather say. Why is it that only the opposition ruled states are having a problem if the center is not interfering? That's what the opposition parties are asking you, sir.
Fine. See, if that is the case, whether Ms. Tamilisai Soundararajan, she was my president, you know, before 3 years, she was my president of Bharatiya Janata Party. So if you say that that because of that it is a political appointment, as rightly said by my another colleague,
Yeah.
Draupadi Murmu, you mentioned, she was also one of my leaders, and Mr. Ramnath Govind also, he was a president. So we should not see we should not give political color to this. We expect all these governors to do their duty because they are appointed by the President of
Similarly,
India.
we expect the Chief Minister of the state to
color.
do their duties as per the aspirations and the wishes of the people of the state.
Let me finish, sir. They will do their duty as per the Constitution of India.
So they are also a Chief Minister under the Constitution of India, elected Chief Minister of the Constitution of India. Governor is not the elected Chief Minister of the country, of the state. He is a nominated member. He has been appointed by the government.
Professor Varshney, let him respond.
Yeah, they have not violated anything. See,
they have
when other states are very peaceful, why the opposition ruled states, you have a problem with the governor?
Mr. Tirupati, now there is an opinion throughout the country that these type of governor, the post of the governor must be abolished. It was
all right, Professor
either in jail or in bail. You need to understand this. In the last 30 years.
Mr. Tirupati, here's a pointed question. See, I get the point that the governor's office is a very coveted position. But even legally, in various judgments of the Supreme Court, it has been accepted that at many occasions, there is a role which has been played by the governor, which is not really constitutional in nature, but political in nature. And we have to accept the reality. In fact, BJP, when the Congress party at the center had opposed multiple times the kind of role that the governors were playing in multiple opposition ruled states in the country. So that history can also not be denied. The argument that the opposition parties are making it that the governor is acting at the behest of the central government to create problems in these states. That's what their argument is.
Let me speak. Let no one interfere in this.
Yeah, go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
There are two things here. Number one, the appointment of vice chancellors. I will tell you, in the last 20-30 years, at least most of the vice chancellors appointed by the old system through the government or by the pressure of the government, most of the vice chancellors are either in jail or in bail in Tamil Nadu, the universities. Then came our Banwarilal Purohit, and he has made everything right. That is the reason they are not able to appoint their own people into as the vice chancellor.
Mr. Tirupati, you've made your point. I'm very short of time. I want to give last 30 seconds to Dr. Veeraswamy as well. Dr. Veeraswamy, the argument is that a lot of decisions which are being taken by the state government are only happening because of not happening with the due process of law. They're happening because of political compulsions. And I might add there that just because you ideologically disagree with the governor or the ideology that he comes from, that doesn't make him or his job unconstitutional.
See, we are not saying that it is unconstitutional. It is only unconstitutional to be abusing the power that you are holding. So when you make derogatory statements about, and also you were saying that it is illegal, I would like to tell you that a bench of Justices R.K. Agarwal and Ashok Bhushan, in a case, they have made an observation saying the use of the word Harijan, Dhoti, etc. is often
calling
done by
Dalit
people
is also
belonging to
unconstitutional, sir.
as words of insult. Sir, I did not interrupt you when you were speaking.
Please, Dr. Veeraswamy, go ahead. We have very little time. Dr. Veeraswamy, go ahead. Dr. Veeraswamy, go ahead.
So it was an observation made by the Supreme Court, where a bench of 2 judges, they have made this observation saying that these words are used to insult, abuse, and with derision.
The tone and tenor with which a word is said, the kind of context in which a word is used is very, very important. I've absolutely run out of time. Dr. Veeraswamy, Narayan Tirupati, Subhasha, Professor Dinesh Varshney, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the broadcast. Clearly, the office of the governor has been in much controversy, not just right now, but since many, many decades, and perhaps it does require a fresh relook in many ways, especially the relationship between the Chief Minister's office and the Governor's office. With that, it's a wrap. Shivani joins you on the other side.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with CNN News 18. I'm Shivani Gupta, joining you from Australia for our special World Cup show. And what a turnaround it's been, what a miracle it's been for Pakistan, from nearly out after losing their first 2 matches of this World Cup to now in the final. It really has been a complete turnaround for them. and they're truly living on a prayer. We're going to get you all the action and the analysis from the first semi-final that was played in Sydney between New Zealand and Pakistan. Pakistan coming out on tops. Later in the show, of course, we'll also build up to India's semi-final against England, which is being played in Adelaide, where I'm joining you from. Let me also go across and introduce our guests joining us, former India cricketers Maninder Singh, Deep Das Gupta joining us on the show, and also cricket writer and sports commentator Ayaz Memon. Thanks a lot, gentlemen, for being with us. Let's begin with the result of the first semi-final, and it was really a clinical performance from Pakistan, the best that they have done so far in the World Cup, and possibly the worst that New Zealand has done, especially in the field, all through this World Cup campaign. Just goes on to show how in the knockouts the fortunes can just completely change and swing around. So let's talk about the fact that New Zealand put up only 152 to chase for Pakistan, and out of form, miserably out of runs. Babar Azam, the Pakistani captain, was dropped on his first ball, and he made the Kiwis pay because he went on to score a 100-run partnership with Mohammad Rizwan, who also completed a well-deserved 50. Now, both of them did fall at some precarious position for Pakistan. But then, of course, Mohammad Haris came out to bat, and he has been such a revelation for Pakistan in this World Cup. He more or less saw them through. There were a couple of hiccups for Pakistan towards the end of their innings, but really there was never a scoreboard pressure, there was never a run rate pressure on them, and with the start that Babar and Rizwan gave to them, it was never going to be a crisis for them, even though they lost a couple of late wickets. Earlier in the day, New Zealand won the toss, decided to bat first, but they lost their openers early for just 28. Kane Williamson anchored at one end and rebuilt the innings. Along with Daryl Mitchell, they added 68 for the fourth wicket, took the score to 117 before Shaheen Afridi sent Williamson packing with just 4 runs short of his half-century. Neesham and Mitchell added a quick-fire 35 from 22 at the end, took their score to 152. Remember, Shaheen Afridi has been the star for the Pakistani side, and he's really improving with every match that we're seeing. So with that, let me go across to the guests who are joining us. This is just turning out to be miraculous for Pakistan. How fortunes completely changed. But fielding, we expected Pakistan to suffer on that, but it was really the Kiwis.
Absolutely. And as you rightly mentioned, 3 drop catches, maybe difficult ones, especially the Ish Sodhi one was a little difficult and way too late in the game as well. But the first one, yes, Conway, that was difficult as well. I can imagine as a keeper, going the other way and getting the outside edge, and then you have to move the other way. But having said that, yes, and also fielding from Pakistan, I think they were brilliant. Also the fact that, someone like Babar got his men in the right positions. For example, Shadab generally fields in that backward point region. But today, in the first 6 overs, he was at mid-on, realizing that, this is a slowish pitch. You need your best fielders in front of the wicket, not behind the wicket. And that run out, that was for me a major point in that game. Conway last over of the power play, last ball of the power play actually, and Shadab getting him run out. So yes, fielding was the differentiator to a great extent, and in fact it went Pakistan's way.
Yes. But, as I mentioned, Babar Azam was woefully out of form, out of touch, had not even, made 40 runs in total out of his 5 innings before this match. And we were talking about him earlier, Manipaji, and, he has obviously made use of the second chance and the second life that his team has got. And today he looked great.
Between the two teams, Pakistan was the team that looked like they've come on the field to basically win. They were charged up from ball 1. As we've been talking about their fielding was electric. And, sometimes what happens when you know that the luck is going your way, then you start putting in more effort. I'm not taking anything away from the way they played their game, but, sometimes as a cricketer, when we used to think that, luck is going my way, the confidence level used to go high. For the Kiwis, I think if you're going to drop chances like that, like they gave that first ball chance to Babar Azam, he's going to take advantage of that because he's a good player, and I think he's come to form at the right time. So all in all, I think it was Pakistan's day. Pakistan's attitude was brilliant, and they were very, very positive on the field. And, what better than getting your captain in form in the semi-final and taking your team to the final. So I think he's come to form at the right time. So another plus for the Pakistan team going into the final.
Yeah, and just talking about the bad fielding, I think what also didn't work for the Kiwis was Conway behind the wickets. I mean, let's just face it, he didn't have a very good match. And in a semi-final, in the knockout stage of a World Cup, you can't afford, such mistakes behind the wicket. Deep.
Yeah, to a certain extent, yes. But, Devon Conway has been their wicket keeper, at least in T20Is, for a while now. But things like that can happen. I mean, you can have drop catches and everything else. Unfortunately, it happened at such a big stage and a crucial moment. And that to Babar. And obviously, I think a lot of it, I mean, as Manibhaiya mentioned about, you're not supposed to be here, but you're here, so might as well just have the most fun you can. That's how it seemed like for Pakistan, because they were like we've been talking about, they weren't supposed to be here. Obviously, South Africa did them a huge favor, or Netherlands, or call it whatever. But having said that, also the fact that I think the inclusion of Mohammad Haris has also kind of helped them. The kind of form that Mohammad Haris is in the last, including this one, last 3 games, I think that has given the top 2, as in Rizwan and Babar, a little more confidence in batting a little more freely. And kind of expressing themselves. And also a score of 150 is right up their alley. If it had been 165, 170, where they had to take a few more chances and they were kind of under pressure as far as the scoreboard is concerned. But yeah, I mean, the first 6 overs, they got 55 runs. So the game, obviously, it was always going to get difficult when the ball was getting older. But the game was, to a great extent, won in the first 6 overs itself, 55 without loss.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask our guests about Mohammad Haris, because, what a great find and revelation he's turning out to be. And I think but for his performances in the last 3 matches, in fact, in the matches coming up to the semi-final, even if you forget today, because the stage was virtually set by the opening batsman. By the way, Rizwan and Babar weren't really clicking together so far, but together they've now made 300-run stands in T20I, and I think they've become the first and only pair to do so. So that just goes on to show why we were talking about Rizwan and Babar so much, and why the team is so dependent on them, because when they do well, suddenly the Pakistani batting lineup looks completely different. But coming back to Mohammad Haris, Manipaji, he's a great talent. He's just so good to watch and so fearless.
And very positive. His approach is very positive. It's like Surya Kumar Yadav when he comes onto the field, when he comes to bat, or Virat Kohli when they come onto bat. I'm not comparing anybody with anybody, but they bring positivity. They're looking for runs all the time, and that is what Haris does. He's looking for runs all the time, and sometimes players like that give energy to the team. And I think since the time he's come into the team, that has happened to this Pakistan side. They've started, they look a lot more energetic on the field. There's a lot more positivity in the side. And that is helping this Pakistan side. And, as you said, if the top 2 start scoring runs for them, then they look completely different side, altogether a different side, and that is a big plus for the Pakistan side, that both their openers have got runs in the semi-finals. They are going to go into the finals with a lot of confidence. It doesn't matter whether it's going to be India or England. I think Pakistan is on a high at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of the momentum that they were carrying, winning their last 3 matches, I think they were the only team to do so. The other teams had won their last 2 and coming into the semi-final. They were the only one with 3 wins back-to-back after losing their first 2, coming into the semi-finals. And I think they had a little bit of that momentum and belief. They surely have some of the biggest star power you can ask for in the dressing room or in the dugout. They've got the likes of Matthew Hayden, Saqlain Mushtaq, and then they've got Mohammad Yusuf, and just the list is endless. So clearly, the turnaround that has come for them, that's instilled a lot of belief in them. And since we're talking about the turnaround for them, a lot of people are actually also comparing this to the 1992 World Cup win under Imran Khan that also came here in in Australia. But I want to run for our viewers of what the Pakistani team have done in the T20 World Cup. We will all remember, of course, in the inaugural edition, Pakistan lost that superb final against India, last ball thriller. But then in 2009, they beat Sri Lanka in the final to win the trophy. So they're also waiting for the T20 trophy after being previous champions for over a decade. Quite like India after winning the 2007 title, we haven't won at the World T20 stage again. Similarly, for Pakistan also, it's been a very long wait. They haven't won the 50-over World Cup either in this period. So this is a spectacular chance. Let me go across to Ayaz Memon, who's joining us back. Ayaz, parallels to 1992 and a great chance to get a hand on the ICC trophy again.
Absolutely, Shivani. Very strong parallels to 1992. I was there in Australia when Pakistan won that tournament against all odds, coming back from the dead. And this is pretty much what's happened here.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a very compressed format. It's only 20 overs. That was a little more, in those days, far more challenging. 50 over matches. But the situation and the recovery is just so eerily similar. But we'll have to wait and see how they take it from here, said, and Manipa. And I think somewhere the Kiwis seem to have some apprehension about the pitch and the conditions. I think that they're batting, they probably should have set a target of 175, 180. I think they settled for about 160. And that's where they started faltering. Of course, you can't take anything away from the Pakistan bowlers. You have Shaheen Shah Afridi striking in the first couple of overs, and they're always on the back foot. And that's where I think the difference came in, which is the really classy bowling by the Pakistani pacemen, but supported by brilliant fielding. I have not seen a Pakistani side field like this, perhaps ever. And I think this is something that should be creating some, provoking some thought in the Indian dugout. You're going to face a Pakistan team which you can't say traditionally, so fielding mein halke hai, we can always steal a few runs here and there. That's not going to be possible.
Yeah. No, we discussed their fielding, and of course, the fact that you mentioned Shaheen also, what a great weapon he is for the Pakistani team, because he manages to take wickets in his opening over. That is something that the Pakistani side has come to depend on, and that is such a great start that you can get after being put into bowl as well, Manipaji. I think he has taken his time to get into his rhythm. I don't think he's still at a tearing pace that we know of Shaheen to be, but when it comes to his wicket-taking ability, he's just absolutely amazing.
See, coming back for any cricketer is not very easy. The greatest of cricketers also needed some time to get into a rhythm when they've made a comeback after an injury, especially after an injury. So for a fast bowler, it becomes all the more difficult. And I think he's getting into that rhythm. We saw it in the previous game. He got 4 wickets. And, as you talked about, he's got this knack of getting a wicket in the first over. I honestly don't remember any game in white ball cricket that I've seen where he's bowled and he's got a wicket in the first over and Pakistan losing that game. I think if you take out the records, it will be about 90 odd % that whenever he's got a wicket in the first over in white ball cricket, Pakistan have they've gone on to win the game. I think he's a very important weapon, and once he's in that rhythm, I think it must be giving a lot of confidence to the other Pakistani bowlers as well, and that is exactly what they did in this game. I mean, he got a wicket in the first over, and you saw all the bowlers coming and contributing.
Yeah, well, you just need a few things to go your way, and suddenly the entire energy around the team can change. And that's exactly what has happened for Pakistan. So one end of the quote-unquote dream final is already certain. Pakistan is in the final. Now everybody is waiting for India to get through, and that's what the universe is asking for, I think. Certainly what the Indian and the Pakistani fans are asking for. So speaking of that, let's shift our attention to the big match that we'll be previewing here in Adelaide. And that's, of course, India versus England. This is possibly going to be a cracker as well, a little bit more possibly competitive than what we've seen in this match. It was a little underwhelming by from New Zealand against Pakistan, but this match is going to be a cracker. Here's a preview for it. We'll also listen in from both the captains on the stage, and the fact that for England, after the disappointment in 2015 in Australia, where they didn't even make it to the knockouts, and then started the turnaround for them in white ball cricket, to the Indian side, where Rohit Sharma talks about the wait for the ICC trophy. So the preview, and then let's also listen in from both the captains.
It's going to be a blockbuster semi-final clash with the informed men in blue taking on England, which is high on confidence at the Adelaide Oval. It's a do-or-die battle, with the winner heading to MCG on Sunday night for the final, while the loser will head home after the Super 12 stage of the tournament. India finished at the top of Group 2, while England were runners-up of Group 1. Talking of India, the men in blue ended as table toppers with 8 points and 4 wins to their name. The Rohit Sharma-led team looks settled with firepower from KL Rahul at the top. Virat Kohli is in the form of his life and is the highest run getter in the World Cup. Surya Kumar Yadav is right behind Kohli with 225 runs in this World Cup and 3 half-centuries to his name. Down the order, Hardik Pandya and Akshar Patel are dangerous customers with a bat against any side. On the bowling front, all eyes will be on Arshdeep and he will be expected to get India early wickets. With the experience of Shami, Pandya and Ashwin in the mix, India looks like an unbeatable team. However, there are some small areas of concern with Rohit playing only one good knock this World Cup, and that too against the Netherlands. The debate over wicketkeeper batsman position continues to rage after Pant failed to deliver in the match against Zimbabwe. India will face England, who finished as a second spot with 7 points in 5 matches with 3 wins. The Butler-led team endured a shaky start, including a shock defeat to Ireland, but recovered to beat New Zealand and Sri Lanka to clinch a place in the last 4. England are battling injuries, with David Malan still under doubt because of a groin injury, while fast bowler Wood also took limited part in training after reporting body stiffness. Even India had injury concerns, with skipper Rohit Sharma being hit on the forearm, but then to the relief of the team management, he came back and resumed practice. Adelaide has been a happy hunting ground for India this World T20 when they defeated Bangladesh in a rain-hit match. India has not won any ICC event since their win in the 2013 Champions Trophy. Since then, India have reached the finals of T20 World Cups in 2016 and semi-final in 2014, but have faced heartbreaks. It's time for men in blue to win the cup and answer a billion prayers.
This is the moment for Rohit Sharma and his men to come good on wanting to win an ICC title that they have been talking about for quite some time. Remember, it's been nearly 10 years since 2013 that India hasn't won an ICC title. They've been in multiple semi-finals and even a final when it comes to ICC tournaments, World Cups, splitting over 320 and 50 over cricket. But when in the knockout stages, since the 2013 Champions Trophy, they haven't really been on the money. And this knockout phase, they'll have to play better than what we've witnessed so far, especially against teams like England coming up, to be able to lift that trophy one more time. With camera person Guneet in Adelaide, Shivani Gupta, CNN News 18.
Absolutely, it's an opportunity for us to come and do that, but we do understand it's been a long process for us and we will stick to our process. I think it's important not to get ahead of ourselves, and we do understand as well that we have to play good cricket to win that game, which I think we've done in this tournament. We just need to stick to it. I know we're a long way away from it, but I think it's important to just understand that it's a contest between bat and ball, which we have to come on top with, and and stick to and trust what you've been doing so far.
It's been clear to see the change in sort of mindset in English cricket and towards the white ball game since that way, and especially the way we've played. And I think as you mentioned, the way we've played, given us better results. So that gives us a lot of trust in that process that it works. And I think, even going back to the Pakistan tour, some younger guys coming into the group, it seems an ingrained way of playing now in English cricket. So it's been a fantastic journey to be involved in. Going back to that point, as you said, it was a real line in the sand, I would say, that moment in English white ball cricket. And, I think we all want to win things and we all want to certainly don't want to be a team that just says we played a great style of cricket. You want to have tangible things that you have achieved throughout that as well. So getting to semi-finals and finals, the big prize is obviously standing on that, there with the trophy at the end of the game, and that's what we all want to achieve. But we know that the way we play is going to give us the best chance of doing that.
Well, that's Jos Buttler. He was talking about 2015 when they were knocked out before the knockouts in Australia, in the World Cup in Australia. But Jos Buttler in his press conference also talked about how everybody wants an India-Pakistan final. So what does he think about that? And he made it categorically clear that we have no plans of an India-Pakistan final happening, even if a lot of people want it. And of course, as the man who wants his team to get into the final, he will say that. But if England hasn't looked quite as good as we were expecting them, to India also having some issues with their, with their balance, with their performance at the top especially. Ayaz, do you think both of these teams are evenly balanced as we get into the semi-final?
I think once you take the field, I think the biggest factor in this match will be the pressure on both the teams. And the pressure will be, I think, perhaps a little more on India, given the expectations of so many more people. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be far reduced on England. I think that both teams have been a little short. England perhaps more so of all-round performance in this tournament. I think India have come.
Yeah.
The way India have won, last ball finishes under acute pressure, defending modest totals, was very, very impressive. Yes, we can say that Rohit hasn't had a big score under his belt. So is that looking a little wobbly in the top order? Maybe, maybe not, because you've got Surya Prakash Yadav, Virat Kohli, KL Rahul in fabulous form. Hardik Pandya has also looked in very good touch. The other issue, there are two actually. Rishabh Pant or DK has been a dilemma from day one since the tournament started, and it continues as we head into the semi-final. And the other is, which spinner do you take? I mean, Yuzvendra Chahal or Akshar or Ashwin. I think that seems to be more or less settled. I think they're not, I think, looking very keenly at Yuzvendra Chahal right now. But the DK Pant issue may still be, bothering Rohit and Dravid as they sleep tonight and in preparation for tomorrow's, massive game.
Yeah, no, I did ask Rohit Sharma that question. Trust me, I'm going to ask that question to him when I get an opportunity, because this is something that we've been debating on our shows quite a bit as well. And Pant made an entry into the playing 11 for the first time in the last group game. So I'm going to bring you that in just a bit. But I do want Deep's thoughts on the problem areas for India. And that one problem area, Deep, interestingly, is, of course, how India have been amongst the slowest starters in this tournament. They have scored a 5.96 runs and over in the power play, and that's been the worst of most of the teams. So, that because of the fact that either at one time KL Rahul wasn't working or Rohit Sharma is not in full flow, that is the biggest problem area for us, do you think?
Yes and no, because I don't think the difference, I don't know exact numbers, I don't think the difference would be too much between the teams. Obviously, India going less than 6 and over, less than run a ball. But that's been the template so far in this tournament, isn't it? I mean, you watch the first 6-7 overs because the ball's doing a bit, and then the second half of the innings is where you capitalize on it. So I won't be too bothered about that particular number, but the fact that you have kind of lost more often than not at least a wicket or two every power play, I think that is an area of concern. Whether it's Rohit, whether it's KL, that is, or both of them, in fact. So that's an area of concern where you don't mind getting a comparatively slowish start, but then if you lose early wickets, like two of them in your first 6, then it puts added pressure on your middle order, which is firing, which is great. But then you don't want them to kind of get out there with two early wickets gone. So ideally speaking, I'm not too concerned about that run rate so much, but yes, losing early wickets I am.
Yeah, and there is an other side to the statistics that I talked about, because actually if they've been one of the slowest starters in the starting power play, they've actually been the ones to score at the fastest rate in the final 4 overs. And that figure stands at nearly 12 runs per over. So while India has suffered at the start, whether it's wickets or being slow, they have actually managed, because of performances by the likes of Virat Kohli, Surya Kumar Yadav and even Hardik Pandya, they've managed to pick up towards the end, and they've covered that gap that has been witnessed for them. So Maninder Paji, do you think that in its, what do you think, let me just ask you an open question, what do you think is the biggest issue for the Indian team going into this match? If it's Pant versus DK, then just hold your horses, because I'm going to play out what Rohit Sharma has said.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue for India is actually losing those couple of wickets in the first 6 overs. They've got to be very careful, because Rohit Sharma has to realize that these are not the pitches that you come here, start scoring runs from the word go, because, there is something for the bowlers. So you've got to give that respect to the bowlers. And, Deep said right that we shouldn't be really bothered about that India has not scored run a ball in the first 6 overs. We should be really bothered about not losing a wicket, because can you imagine Rohit Sharma, if he stays there till the 15th, 16th over, probably he could get 100 of his own.
Yeah.
And, that concern that we are talking about, that won't be there anymore, because he can score runs quickly. Once he stays at the wicket, once he's gauged the bounce and the pace of the surface, I think he's somebody who can score runs quickly, because once he puts his foot on the accelerator, then there's no stopping him. And what happens? The bowlers also go on the back foot, because they know what Rohit Sharma can do. And then because he's a kind of a batsman who can score runs of good deliveries. But when Rohit Sharma is there till the 15th, 16th over, then, as I said, that the bowlers are on the back foot, they start giving loose deliveries where he can score runs easily. So Rohit Sharma has to think that he can't score runs from the word go, but if he stays at the wicket for a longer period of time, it's going to be advantage India.
Can I quickly add?
Yeah, one knack that Rohit Sharma has. Yes, come in.
Yeah, so quickly want to also add the fact that, how many times have Rohit got out to the short delivery, whether it's playing the cut or pull? That's something that obviously might not be such a big factor playing in Adelaide, because the square boundaries are a lot smaller than the other grounds that India has played on. So the other important thing, I think, is taking on the square boundaries, which obviously is Rohit's go-to shot, and it's so good. He's one of the best in the world, actually, in white ball cricket. But that hasn't helped his cause. If you look at the dismissal, the mode of dismissal with Rohit, more often than not, you'd see him against the short ball, maybe playing the pull more often than not.
Yeah. Interesting you mentioned the dimensions of the Adelaide Oval. It's quite a weird, ground, isn't it? Because you mentioned, as you very rightly said, the straighter boundaries are much larger. The squarer boundaries are actually much shorter. And Rohit Sharma was asked about how batsmen adjust, because one ground to another in Australia, the dimensions are very different. And he talked about how, it comes with instinct. A lot of the Indian batsmen are instinctive, but it is hard to adjust. And especially for some of the boys who haven't played in Australia before, it has been a massive adjustment for them to make. And India have played at Adelaide, England haven't. So I think that could possibly also be one of the advantages for the Indian team going ahead. And what we do know that it is going to be a used pitch that will be used in Adelaide. But let me now, without further ado, bring you that question. First of all, I asked to Rohit Sharma on how he's doing, because remember yesterday we talked about how he suffered a hit on his right forearm in the nets yesterday. So he talked about how he's doing, and then the age-old question of Pant versus Dinesh Karthik. Listen in.
I have a two-part question. If first you could tell us how you're doing after the hit at the nets yesterday, and last game you made a change with Pant coming in. Was that a one-off, or will you be sticking to it now?
The first part is obviously, I was hit yesterday, yes, but it seems to be fine now. There was a little bruising, but it's absolutely fine now. Between Pant and DKC, I said it before the last game as well. Rishabh was the only guy who didn't get to play on this tour at all, except the two games that we played in Perth. That was our unofficial practice game. But since then, he hasn't had a hit, and he was the only guy who was missing some game time. So we wanted to give him some time and have some options as well, whether if we want to make changes in the semis or the finals, we should be able to do that. And it'll be unfair to just bring the guy from nowhere and make him play the game. So that was the thought. But again, at the same time, we've told the guys right from the beginning that everyone needs to be ready for whichever game that they have to play, whether it's semis, final, league games. They got to be ready for it. But yeah, it was a little tactical as well, considering we were not knowing which team we will be playing in the semis before that Zimbabwe game. So we wanted to just give a left-hander an opportunity to counter some of the spinners who bowl in the middle for New Zealand and England. That was the thought, and we thought Rishabh was the guy for us to go and give him some time as well. But again, what is going to happen tomorrow, I think Won't be able to tell you right now, but both of the keepers will be in play for sure.
It's time for the semi-finals, and as they say, the tournament starts now. For the Indian team, this is a great opportunity to get one step ahead in winning that ICC